Welcome, everyone, to this week's Elemental Evolution. So happy to be back today. I hope that you all have had a fantastic week because we've got so many great things to talk about as far as what's been happening with all of us, but also what we think is coming, what we've been seeing, what we've been talking about. We're going to do a whole recap of, well, I thought it was going to be the last couple of years, but please help me welcome Amanda Pinkerman, I'm sorry. And Anonymous Radio is also here with us. Hi, Amanda. I'm sorry. I'm just like a stumbling mess.
Oh, hey, Sherry. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So excited.
This is going to be a great show. It really is, because we've got, we've missed a couple of months of catch up. So I want to do two things quickly. I want to first say hi to Stephen Roberts, and thank you for producing today, because I forget that a lot.
Hello, Sherry. Hello, everyone.
I want to do a recap just really quick. I'd like to hear from all three of you about how your months have been, and not just the last couple of days. And that, obviously we don't want to hear about what you had for dinner or, that kind of stuff. What has happened to and for all of us in the last few months? Stephen, let's start with you.
Well, let's start with me. Okay. Well, as a lot of people do know, it's been just over 3 months ago now, December 6th. I went in for triple bypass, open heart surgery, and had a wild ride the first 3 days. I did pull through, but the first 2 days I wished I hadn't. I thought I was in so much pain, but it started to subside after day 2 and day 3, and started getting better and better. And I can breathe now. I can exercise, and I can walk a couple miles if I want. I can walk 2 or 3 miles, and I can get on a bike and ride 5 or 10 miles, I think, if I wanted to.
Well, yeah, that's what you had said that, in the beginning, like you said, it was really hard, but now you have more energy. Your oxygen levels are up. You've had a lot of benefit from this surgery, right?
Yes. I wished I even had more energy and more stamina and more benefits, but it hasn't. I still have some sort of a breathing problem, and I still have edema. I still have water in my lower feet, and that can't get rid of. I don't know. It does seem to help the more I walk. Of course, I do have artificial knees, so the more I walk, the less life my knees are going to have, and so forth, so on.
So what about the swimming? Are you back at the pool? Are you doing that kind of thing?
I'm going to get back into that pretty quick here, probably after my little trip in a couple of weeks, probably. Or maybe during that. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm in a different area now, so you'll have to check out and find some place here. But,
okay, yeah. I still have about, 13 or 14 visits at that rec center that I can use up.
Well, yeah, but that's not close anymore.
Well.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So, okay, now I want to move on, and I want to, Amanda, darling, are you with me?
I'm here. I'm present.
Okay. So, what's been happening for you? It's been, over a month since we've done a show?
Oh, it's been a couple months. I feel like, I've been in the cave, really, back into the cave. And but I've been cocooning in there. I've had a lot of personal physical pain. I've been through tremendous, I was kind of sidelined for 6 weeks. Then I had 2 children, not just one, 2 children with broken ankles on crutches.
I can't quite get over that.
And both teenagers. So they're very they're already difficult, but that is just, that's surreal. Like, seriously, who does that? So
yeah, go ahead.
But, and I haven't been even making videos. I just have been so much, I have to be honest, I was very distracted by everything going on out there. So I think I kind of got pulled into it and overwhelmed. So I just keep hearing that I need to go inward. So I've been pulling back and just going inward, just doing all of my inner work. And I'm kind of ready to come out of that cocoon now. I think we've got a lot coming, a lot of energy, a lot of change, a lot shifting. So, I'm feeling better. I've gotten better, and I'm ready to move forward. How about Anonymous? Where's Anonymous Radio?
I'm here. My life at the moment. That's what you wanted to know, right?
Yes.
Well, I moved back here from Alaska recently. kind of bouncing between running this thing as a forum, as a 6-hour-a-day podcasting forum, as a 24-hour radio station. Going to school, I moved into a house in my depressing hometown in central Maine. So but there's, I'm going to school and shit, and I've got a job, so, there's shit's looking up, I guess.
Well, I have to say that you looked good. I hadn't seen you in a while. You got your braces on.
Yeah. Things are definitely better.
Yeah, you look great.
Did you find your soul in Alaska? I know you went there for a bit.
Actually, in a way, yeah, kind of. I got a new perspective anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm really glad to hear that. And it's been, I appreciate what you do with with Anonymous Radio, because it does give us some of the hosts that are kind of out there sometimes that.
Not even just the hosts, like the people. Like, I try to interview real people on the streets.
Oh, I love that. I love that you're interactive, and that is important. But I think, too, it gives people like me a place where I can have off-the-chart shows sometimes. Like, of course, everybody thinks I'm off the chart most of the time, but I can really jump sometimes with Anonymous, and I have, and we've done some really crazy shows, and some of the stuff that comes out, sometimes I'm like, shit, I wish I hadn't said that, and sometimes I'm like, yes, and then it comes true. So it's been a blast hanging out with you, and that's one of the reasons. Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, we employ a no censorship rule. Actually, if our group has such an issue with an individual, alienation tends to be the best cure for a problem. I mean, honestly, if somebody's such a dickhead, like we had this guy Omnisense on. I don't want to get into details, but
no, let's not go into details.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, nobody liked him. He was already on his way out.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Well,
you want an environment that is supportive of one another and not seeking to, like, sometimes in this realm, the ego can step in and want to kind of crush people. No, their belief is better than your belief. And at the end of the day, we all have our own beliefs, and our perspective is molded from that. And there's no need to, step down.
I mean, honestly, that's why I was at one time on all these different channels and doing all these things. And now, I do some independent stuff, but really People's Internet Radio, they give me that freedom. And
it's just like when your belief becomes destructive, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah.
Well, you're holding on to something that no longer is suiting you, and so they're in resistance already. So then they're trying to like slam that square peg into that round hole, and like give it up, shift your perspective. Which I love hearing that you had some perspective shifts this summer, or this past year.
And I think it's okay that there's been people in and out of the group. I use that forum sometimes to vent, like I did this morning, and it has a tendency, like I said, sometimes after I do things like that, sometimes I'm always like, shit, that's not really the vibration that I want to create. But I'm in it, so I do it. And There's been a lot in our circles. When you talk about ego and different things, I don't care that much about where people go with that.
Lori has a question, Sherry.
What?
Lori has a question.
I'm not looking at the chat.
I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll put that in there. Yes, he does, Lori. He actually has so what they're asking about is Anonymous Radio's links. Did you hear me?
Oh, yeah. You can find us on Spreaker. If you look up Anonymous Radio Redux, that's Spreaker. It's a podcasting website like Blog Talk. Literally, you can search us anywhere. We're active on Facebook and Spreaker and Twitter and shit. Just same name. I could drop a link after the call.
Okay, yeah, that would be great if you could do that. If you could, and then I'll put it into the chat over there. So I don't want to get too distracted because there's a lot that I want to cover in the next 2 hours, which I'm always like, 2 hours, such a long time. No, it flies. And I want to start off with, back in January, we had the 2 full moons. I had a discussion, Amanda, with you about this and how I felt like that second moon just knocked the shit out of me. I mean, literally, I was down, and then I went through like that wave again of being really like almost depressed, almost just like, I mean, it dropped me again right back into the hole. It didn't take as long for me to get out. I was able to see it and I moved. But you had said something to me about what was happening in the paradigm of what the moon's purpose was and how it's really a manipulation and on and on and on. Anyway, there was a lot more to that discussion. Can you kind of just give me a recap? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so the majority of it I had picked up from watching Deep Space on Gaia. So you're talking about like Dr. Michael Salla, and I think they have David Icke on there, and there's multiple experts that they have speaking. And what they're talking, they do a couple shows that kind of center on the moon, but they're talking about the moon being basically a gigantic CPU inside of it. And it emits a frequency and that it's beaming at us. They go into a lot more detail, but so you have heightened irrational behavior during these full moons, right? We have higher crime or higher incidents and stuff, and this is actually affected by the energy in the moon. But something else we actually have going on at the same time, Sherry, is since really beginning of 2018, we've had these really big geomagnetic storms that are coming off of the sun. And I believe the first one was the 17th of January, and then around the 12th of February, the second one hit. And we have a third one coming in on the 18th. That's going to be the largest one to date. And so, I know it's kind of this pull, right?
Explain, I'm not trying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want you to explain to people what this, when you say wave, people are like, oh, we're going to have a sunny day. You know what I mean?
Okay. So, no, but energy, like, really the sun is putting off these gigantic bands of energy that are coming towards us, and they're coming in primarily through the north and the south pole. So if you could envision our planet like a toroidal field, like it pulls in from the top and the bottom. So someone had actually even recently posted, the polar bears are floating on ice because, everything's melting and global warming. And yeah, we do have some global warming going on, but we have interplanetary global warming going on, which means every single planet in our solar system is heating up. And it's all coming from our sun. And so these bands of energy that are coming towards us are shifting us. They're shifting our consciousness. They're bringing more light onto the planet. Light allows us to have an expansion of our knowledge, of our wisdom, our information. So this is ever moving forward. In Wisdom Teaching Season 27 on Gaia, David Wilcock goes through probably 32 different ancient cultures, religions, scripts, books, information that talk about this wave, this event that's coming, this light energetic experience that's coming towards us. But these geomagnetic storms are parts of it. Like, I don't think it's any one single event that's going to happen. I think it's a multitude of waves coming, and it's changing our DNA. It's changing our consciousness. It's moving us into a crystalline structure from that carbon-based structure being. And it's
explain more about that as well, because I think that's another aspect that loses people is the crystal. When we start talking, because we're not turning into
Okay, no. So I did an entire video on this actually on my YouTube channel on Pink Light 999. And I think I said carbon to crystalline. So if you can understand that at birth, we're about 90% water, but in our older age, like I'm in my 40s, I know Anonymous is in his 20s, right? So he might be a little bit more water content than you, me, and Steven. But at this point, we're about 70% water. Well, what forms in water? Crystals form in water. So the higher vibrational frequency, you can look up Dr. Emoto for this with the water crystals. When you're emitting a positive, influence positive words, thoughts, songs, anything, you're getting these gigantic, beautiful crystals in the water. Well, if we're mainly water, and we're raising our vibrational frequency, we're going to create that crystal aspect within our being ourselves. So what I'm actually seeing is like the chakras becoming like the higher chakras, not like your first, second, or third chakra, but from your fourth chakra up can actually form into these beautiful crystal-like forms. And that's what we're here opening on in this dimensional reality. If you're on planet Earth right now, you have your first 3 centers worked on, and you're really here either to open your heart chakra if you're on the service to other path. If you're on service to self, then you're skipping right past the heart chakra. But those chakras from the heart chakra up all form in crystal formation. Does that confuse you more, or does that help? I don't know. It's like when we're moving into a higher dimensional reality, we're moving Earth, Gaia, planet Earth is moving into another dimensional reality, which is at a higher frequency. And to move with Earth, you have to really do your work, your inner work. We have to be clearing out our negative emotions, our negative patterns that are forming in geometric shapes, but they're distorted if they're negative. And so we have to, and you and I were kind of talking about this right before we came on, Sherry. I'd love to get into the sacred geometry of it, because the crystals, it's all feeding in together.
Well, yes. And not only is it feeding in together, but I feel like, and tell me if this is kind of what you've been hearing or what you've been seeing, is I don't even remember how long ago it was that we had the discussion about when I was actually being bombarded with these geometric shapes and I didn't understand what was going on. And it was almost like a 3D, it was almost like a vision, as opposed to now I feel like it's more mapping. I have a deeper understanding of what the shapes are actually meaning and what their coding is, as far as numbers, as far as how they collect energy, how they source energy, how they move energy. And that is crucial in my opinion, in the understanding of this dimensional elevation, right? It's almost like when you're talking about a crystal and when you're talking about the vibration of love and you're talking about it's actually it is a higher vibration, but it's a faster vibration.
Well, and it's a sacred geometric form, right? So the higher you get up in a frequency, the more sacred your geometry is. So when we're sitting in this third density, 3D reality, our geometry here has been very distorted to allow to have the light and the dark exist here. But that's the lesson, right? We're here to have the choice between good and evil, and everything we're experiencing as a catalyst thereof. Like, what is your choice? What is your choice? What is your choice? And people say, oh, I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. What are you choosing? So, but yeah, the higher we move in dimensional realities, the more in harmony those geometric forms become, the closer they go back to being the actual true, beautiful, sacred self.
And I also think that there's a larger catalyst coming, and this isn't a fear base. This isn't about the end of the world and all of this, but everything has been in preparation as far as government, as far as allowing people to see what is going on, the internet, the exposure of basically the American government. I mean, let's be real.
No, but it's not just the American government, Sherry. It's worldwide, and it's the deep state, and they're flat out evil, and they're not Republican, and they're not Democrat, and they're not a Tory, and they're not a this, or they're not a that. They just are evil, and they've infiltrated everything in our entire planet. And that is all coming to the top, because what's happening is we're moving into this higher vibrational frequency. You're not going to be able to hide anything anymore. We're not going to be able to keep secrets and lies. And the more that we raise the light that's hitting the earth literally from the sun, the less they're able to hide things. So everything's coming out. And I don't know, do your listeners, do you follow Q? Q's amazing. Q's been dropping so much information on the internet since October that I feel like I have been through 5 disclosure awakenings in the last just several months.
Well, I definitely want to go into that a lot, but I want to hear, Anonymous, you were saying something, and when Amanda was talking about this, it was hitting you. So I want to hear your perspective.
I'm just saying it's the internet. That's all I think it is technological development allows for the spreading of information, and here we are. But I also think the government, and I think the government also has their hand in some of the information that's getting out there. And I think a lot of these movements and a lot of these leaks and shit, you gotta ask yourself, are they funded? Are they feds or whatever? I talk a lot on my station about, the corruption and shit in the alternative media, so I don't know what you think about all of that. But no, I just think the internet, dude, I think people are finally, awake, dude, but it won't last if they shut it down.
Right. Well, you're right. And I don't think that, I think that would be that wouldn't be in their best interest because they use it as well. I think, though, that you said something about the alternative media being corrupted. Go into that a little bit. I want to hear about that because I've experienced some of that as far as being attacked by other hosts, having direction, that type of thing.
Yeah, I started back in 2013, and I noticed it right off, dude. I don't want to name names, but I can say, it's all about, the ego, the agenda, the money, and the ratings. And when you have to do a show every day, that's kind of what happens. I mean, Clyde Lewis pretty much told me himself over Facebook because I was hounding him about it. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? All your shows are really, really kind of not good, man?
Right. And he just went
out. He's just dude, it's just a job. It's just a job. The only way you can do that every day is if you spread a little bit of lies every now and again to just keep the fluff going. You know what I mean? That's why I don't do shows every day. I just do it whenever I feel like. And if I have something to say, then boom.
What I am finding, I guess, fascinating is I do a show, I was doing a lot of different shows during the week, but now that I'm just doing one show, it seems like my focus for that week, whatever is going on and whatever I try to put together, it seems like almost right at the end of the week, everything shifts. There'll be some big calamity where, there's been how many shootings in the U.S. in the last month? There's been, you go down the list of all of the distractions, all of the stuff that's happening, and I feel like, well, for me, I feel like all of this is happening because of what Amanda was talking about earlier, the influx of energy. It may or may not be, I don't believe that it's government conspiracy. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not, but I think that it truly is just the planets in themselves, our universe. It's the forced evolution. And I've talked.
Yeah, why is all this technology happening now? We've been pretty consistent as a species as far as our standard of living goes forever. And then 250 years ago, bang! Industrial revolution. Computers, cars, airplanes, shit that for thousands of years people would think is ludicrous. Airplanes and cars, man. There was a time when going over 60 miles an hour was believed would kill you. You know what I mean?
Well, and you're right. And so what is that? And I think that it is because of the energy influx. I think something has happened to the human race that has allowed people to have a deeper understanding, to have more knowledge, to, Tesla, there were geniuses throughout history that were giving us and telling us what was happening as far as, energetically, geometrically, telling us about the government being corrupt. Even back then, it didn't stop anybody. Having the information didn't stop it from happening. So, yes, I see what you're saying about this is the technology and all this stuff is coming. I truly do believe that it's in preparation. I think, and this is kind of a jump, but I believe that there are two sides and two forces happening here. I think that you have the push for the forced evolution of mankind, of the humankind, of coming into that crystal dimensional being. And then I think you have the governmental push of the AI. I think that the forced evolution that is being subjected into the human race is through the metals, and that they are trying to force the evolutionary track into an electronic, robotic era so that, let's be honest, if we're all going to be better slaves, how would you work that out? So I see both sides of it. And I think that's that's the V, or that's the dimensional, what is it going to be? How do you, is this what you were talking about, Amanda, as far as raising your vibration, you're going to shift and move into this? Or is it like what explain more about how the dimensional shift happens, because I feel like I'm walking in that direction.
You know how I told you this week, and I know you're going to have Michael Tellinger on your show, but a year ago I was on Gaia and I turned on Michael Tellinger's Hidden Origins, and I had a very visceral reaction to him. He was talking about his Ubuntu civilizations or communities, and I just couldn't understand him. I couldn't understand what he was talking about, money being the problem, money, like all this. I just didn't get him. And then this last year, I'm always working on myself. I'm always trying to process, why did I create this in my reality? Why am I experiencing this? Why is this here? And so I'm ever evolving. But then I turned him on. He came on the other day and I understood everything he was saying, because now I was at a place where I could hear it. It's like when I'm talking about a frequency, I'm talking about what are you tuning your radio station to? What stations can you get? And if you're at a low frequency, you're not going to hear the higher frequency stations. And I simply couldn't hear what Michael Tellinger was saying. And now this time when I turned him on, I understood perfectly what he was saying.
It wasn't the time.
What's that?
It wasn't the time. It wasn't the right time.
Well, right. And I think there's encoded timing when we wake up. There's encoded timing for us to have realizations and epiphanies. But my frequency came to a place where now I could hear him. And it was funny because my husband walked in while it was on, and he had an incredibly visceral reaction to him and got very angry and kind of got very combative with me. And I was like, I just laughed because I'm like, it's just not time yet. It's not time for you to hear that, but that's okay, right? This other realization, this other epiphany I've come to is this, like where we're moving into. When I say there's not going to be room for any lies, we're going to have telepathic communication, and I'm going to know what you're thinking and you're going to know what I'm thinking. And the other day when it really hit me that this is going to happen, I just instantly felt really bad about some of the thoughts I have about people. And I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm like, wow, I really wouldn't want someone to think I think that about them. And so why am I sitting thinking about that in my head? And it really started to shift that inner dialogue I was having. And I'm like, I'm just going to try to think the best about everyone all the time. And as I've been changing my thinking, I'm obviously having a different interaction now with people than I was having. And we can get pulled right back into that negative aspect of it. Like I got pulled back in with some of the political stuff, and instantly the politics wants to divide us. And there's no going forward being divided. That just ends poorly. We have to move forward united. We have to be a unified. And this is that telepathic communication and that space where we're not going to have lies, and we're all going to live at a different frequency. And then I think but there's steps along the way to this, and steps of awakening and people taking in information. So when gnosis is the key to salvation, in my opinion, is the knowledge. The knowledge is what's going to move you forward. So when you're doing your own research, like, yeah, you might go out and read something, but go research it. Because when you research it, you're really going to resonate with it. Like if I just went and told you everything, like I told you all the lies that they've been telling you for decades, you could hear me, but you're going to have a different experience when you're researching it and you're diving into it. And that's the gnosis, that's the knowledge. And we're having more of that. We're all seeking now. We're hearing this call to seek, I feel. And that's what's going to change humanity. And then we have to get rid of the Fed, but that's coming. I think we're going to get rid of the Fed. So, I'm with Michael Tellinger on that one, 100%.
I think you're right on a lot of aspects. I think that there is going to be we're going to see a dissolve, but I think that there's so many people still attached. We talk in our circles, and I'm thinking, yes, okay, we are moving forward, and it seems like at all different levels, like you were saying, the encoding is for each individual, and everyone will have these experiences differently, and that's great. But when I go out into I want to say public, but when I go out and I'm having lunch with some of the people that I worked with at one time or different things, their ideas are not shifting. And when these waves are coming in, it's triggering and targeting the sorrow within them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And so,
the more you're holding that within you, the more it's going to be mirrored and reflected in your life experiences. And this is why it's essential to be clearing out your traumas, your dramas. And let's not drag through them anymore. Let's just shift it. Are you in lack? Okay, see yourself in abundance. And how do we do that, Sherry? You and I do that. Right hand, left hand, 10 times each time. I'm committed to abundance. We can start, I don't want to dive through the shadow anymore. I don't want to give my attention to the darkness. Let's just start shifting it. And the more you're focusing on the positive, like every day I've been listening to Abraham Hicks again. I get in my car, I put some Abraham on, and I'm going into my vortex and I'm thinking about my vibration. And does that make me feel good when I'm sharing that information, or does it make me feel bad? And when you're out there sharing information that makes you angry or frustrated, you're sharing anger. You're sharing frustration. Sorry, turn your gaze to what makes you feel good and go out and share that. If you're in politics, go out and find a feel-good politics story. If you are in, it doesn't matter what you're in. If you're in medicine, go out there and find the natural herb stories and share the things that make you feel good. Yeah, bring awareness that maybe something over here is bad, but don't bring awareness with anger. So the energies are going to accentuate wherever you're sitting on the emotional guidance scale. And the better frame of mind, state of mind, positive state of mind you can get yourself into, the better your experience is going to be. I mean, some people are not going to survive what's coming. They're already not surviving it.
Well, and I was going to get into a lot of that. I was saying almost 2 years ago how when these fucks come in, I call them blankets. At the time I didn't understand the waves and the patterns that we are now seeing and understanding. But the blankets that come in and actually encase people or encase areas of the planet, or I don't know how to describe it, but it literally, it's not just targeting those triggers like we're talking about. It's literally expanding them and causing them to kill people. Heart attacks, organ shutdown, all the things that are being affected by those specific.
Yeah, but these are all choices. This is a choice the soul has. The soul chooses when it leaves. So maybe the soul just isn't here to learn that lesson. They've done everything they need to do, and now it's time for them to move on. And their gift is in having that heart attack so that those around them can go through something they need to go through. It's a symbiotic relationship. Well,
and I think you're right. I think that there is a lot that is coming in the next 30 years, say, and that's expanded. It's going to happen. We've got a lot happen in this year and in the next. But in the next 30 years, we're going to see, in my opinion, a global shift that maybe is not expected. And by that, I do mean this dimensional reality shift, because you and I did a meditation, or you showed me a meditation, and it really did change my perspective, because
we grounded into New Earth. And what I'm telling people to do is not ground into the old Earth anymore, because that's the old paradigm and that holds the structure which we don't want. So what we did is disconnected all your cords and roots, and we moved into the new higher vibrational frequency Earth that's already manifest. It's already here. We can live there.
And yes. And, so before we hadn't really talked a lot about it, but instantly, as soon as I, had these images and was putting my vibration and my energy into it, I saw the translucent rainbow, type of, I want to staircase, but it's really just the energy.
I've actually seen that in a dream.
Yep, that's where we're going. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, very, very lucid dream, in rainbow stuff. Fucking awesome, yeah.
Yeah, but it glows and shimmers and shines, and that's
yeah, exactly like that. I was in a temple, and then I walked down a hallway, and the hallway started to kind of wave out into another universe, and then getting sucked into another dimension.
Holy shit!
That's the dimension we're going.
Yeah, I mean, you just had an introduction, you got a tour. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, dude. I really felt like I was walking down this hallway and it just started to get all wavy and shit. And I was like getting sucked in. So I woke up because I really felt like I was getting sucked into something like another universe or some shit.
I get that, but that is where we want to go. That's where we want to get sucked into. And just when you're grounding yourself, ground your energy, ground yourself into that energy field, because that's where we want to transition with Gaia into this new reality. Gaia's going, and in the past, Gaia has not allowed, and Gaia is Earth for those who haven't heard that, but in the past, the species hasn't been allowed to go with during the shift, and this time we're being allowed to go. So it's tremendous. I mean, that to me says right there, you're coming. That's where you're going. And not everyone's going. Like, there's people on the negative path that'll have a different, what's that?
They don't want to go.
No, I know. There's people who don't want to go, and then there's some who aren't ready to go, and then there's some who need to repeat the current situation we're in. So, and that's all perfect. It's all perfect.
All is as it should be.
Always.
Right.
It's all about reincarnating and doing better phase by phase, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe that. And I think too, and now this was another thing that, because I've been through so much in the last year. It's like I've gone from one point to another. Like, I can't even describe the shifts that are happening, but it feels like to me, and Amanda, I know you're going to be able to get more into this because we've talked about it, but I can't remember the exact terms, and I'm hoping you will. There are 7-dimensional lives that we are experiencing at one time through consciousness, one consciousness.
Yeah, I think that what my belief is, from what I've been dreaming and going into, I think that that's how we're fragmented into this reality is like, if you took we were a 12-strand DNA, and it's almost like they took it and moved it into 6 dimensions so that you're only 2 strands in each dimension. So it's like once we bring all the pieces back together of ourselves, then we are that 12th strand again. So that's just a theory.
So, okay, I want to understand this better, because in my mind, how I'm seeing that is that through these levels of consciousness, I like this blue light that I connect to above my head years ago that I feel like is, I don't know, it's something to do with connecting all of those dimensional realities for me.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the existence, there is actual consciousness and existence in other realities that I'm experiencing. And
simultaneously.
Exactly. And so being able to bring those aspects into one reality, what does that mean, I guess? Obviously seeing things, I mean, I've seen myself in different roles, basically, or living in different realities, experiences of whatever it is that I was doing, financially, job-wise, family-wise, all of these different things. But what does it mean when you're actually combining that and becoming aware of them all at the same time?
I think that's waking up.
But what is, okay, yes. And
I mean,
yeah, it is. But what is that? So if you've got 3 different beings that have consciousness, but it's all somehow based in the same consciousness, and then one wakes up to all these different consciousness, how does that...
Well, okay, so I've done a lot of interdimensional work with a friend of mine. I met a gal, and that's what we do. We kind of go into the dimensions, and we've found that each aspect is missing or lacking something. But when I went in, I saw a part of myself that had what I'm lacking in this reality. And therefore I exchanged what I lacked here for what they lacked. Right. So it's like we gave that to one another, even though we are aspects and pieces of the same being, we're dimensionally in different realities. So it's that merging, like finding that piece and fitting that puzzle back together for each dimensional reality. Does that make sense?
It does. And I guess that makes more sense than how I was seeing it, for sure.
Oh, well, those are the meditations and the work that we like when we go in and yeah. And
I'm like trying to figure out how I'm gonna, be a 7-headed being. Okay, so.
But you're not going to be a 7-headed. It's like 7 layers come together and stand together as one, and there you are. You're more. There's more to you. Then there's more existence of you. it's instead of being sliced, I almost see them as like thin veils that come together. And when you line them up together, then you're far more structured.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot more sense. And I guess that you feel like that with what's happening now on the planet.
But I'm totally downloading right now. So what I'm getting is that what it allows us to do is learn at a far greater pace. So we've actually chosen to be split up. I'm just full on channeling. Sorry, Sherry. That because it allows us accelerated growth during the experience. Because we're just beaming our consciousness into these realities, right? They're pretty much simulations. Our consciousness in its full entirety exists at a higher level. So we're just projecting down into these realities.
The Matrix.
Yeah, the Matrix. But we, so I do my daily readings of the Law of One. When I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, just read little tidbits. And one of the things it was saying the other day was that our souls don't grow on the other side. They can learn, but they don't grow to the extent that when we experience in physical form. So therefore our souls we created these simulations. We created the realities we're going into. And the more negativity allowed into a simulation experience, the greater opportunity for faster growth should the soul be able to wake up and realize what it's doing, right? Because everything pretty much is happening at a subconscious or unconscious level. But now that we're going through this awakening, we have a greater opportunity for acceleration of our soul's growth. So it's interesting, and I definitely was just channeling that we chose to be separated into multiple dimensional realities simultaneously because it actually accelerates our growth. We can work on more than one thing, right? Because if each aspect has to work on a different thing, then you'd be working on 6-7 things any one time.
But and I agree with that. I mean, that makes a ton of sense to me.
I see it in geometric form, right?
Right. Totally makes sense. And especially when you start breaking down, the individual, the seed of life and how, but if you look at the flower of life, there's a ton of different seeds in each. Anyway, do you feel like then what happens when you get stuck, right? Because if you look around, it seems like a lot of the human race right now is stuck in a spin of not just one reality for a lifetime, but I mean dimensional, like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime.
I think, so, I mean, that gets into the great year where we are in the solar system as far as our Earth goes. And just like we go around our sun, our sun goes around a gigantic, like around the galactic center. So that takes 25,920 years. And for the last 13,000 years, we were in a descending, darkening period. And we've moved into that ascending period of light now. So now we have that opportunity to grow again, right? So I think that there are stagnant aspects to the reincarnation. So I'll use an example of David Wilcock. I was just reading his story of getting married this past October. And he believes that the gal he found, he had met several lifetimes ago and had a deep, deep love for her in this lifetime. And she disappeared and she died of tuberculosis, but it was like that abandonment. And so he experienced that in lifetime after lifetime, even as Edgar Cayce, like depressed, drunk, not finding that love of his life. Whereas it's like he had other things to work on in those lifetimes, though, to get to the point where he is now, where he now is with that soul again.
Now,
So
see, what I think is interesting about that is that, so my mother had an experience where she got to connect with her brother's soul. And when he was reincarnated, though, or from what this experience was, he had somehow eliminated his karmic debt, or whatever you want to call it, like that energetic field that holds from lifetime to lifetime. And he was now experiencing a totally different reality of experiences, right? Like it is somehow he had completed whatever it was through that cycle and then was starting on a new cycle.
Yeah, so you've gone from the third density, right, to the fourth. Unless he recycled back up to the sixth, like I think you and I are likely sixth density beings who came down to help.
There's something to, well, and it's okay, so, oh, Lordy, I have this.
I feel like a time traveler, like the Doctor. I'm here to help the human race. Doctor Who.
Exactly. And see, and that resonates with you. And that's a lot of what the souls are. There's back in the 80s, Ra estimated there were 65 million wanderers on the planet. And I'm sure there's far more because the call has been going out for light beings to come here and to help Gaia ascend. So we're probably close to, double that maybe. Who knows? With all
I definitely consider myself wanderer.
Yeah, as do I. And Sherry, you gave me Bringers of the Dawn, which I loved, by Barbara Masiniak. And in that, she's like, you're destroyers of the darkness. Like, we come and we do not, we're not going to bend to the system, right? We're going to break it.
Well, and I definitely think that it's interesting that the way that you put that, because I felt like it had to break me first in a weird way. I got on the show and I was sporadic in my shows and a lot of the things that I did in this last year because I got so fucked up. I mean, let's just be real. I was like, you talked to me. Steven was in connection with me. I was a freaking mess. And it was like I did shows about being targeted and feeling like it was like every wound that I had ever experienced in my lifetime was being brought to the surface, and then not just like, oh, here, look at this, like, oh, take a sniff and then eat a little,
And that's happening for all of us, though, Sherry. I think that everything that we have, and especially because we're forerunners, you're a forerunner. Everyone here's a forerunner, right? Steven's a forerunner. Anonymous is a forerunner. We're here talking, we're on the leading edge of creation, and we're talking about these new ideas, and we're expanding consciousness out there. So, of course, we're going to go through the waves of energy sooner than other people. Like, it's going to hit everybody at different times.
No universes could have been like all the universes we're creating right now. That's because of us.
Yes. And I'm writing on my kitchen wall that says, God is consciousness that is expanding. And that's each one of us. We are that consciousness that's ever expanding. We're on the leading edge of creation, and we are expanding daily with our thoughts.
Okay, so in the chat, Lori's asking for more explanation on like going through the wounding and the release and through the body.
You don't want to get stuck there, Lori, because you could spend, Sherry and I've done it. We've spent decades. I've given myself pneumonia. I've given other people pneumonia.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. But there was something about this last year so you and I have been doing cellular somatics. We've been doing self-help. We've been working on ourselves, like you were saying, for probably most of our lives. And it was not like that. It was more like, if you can imagine, so my childhood woundings or the things that I experienced that I really didn't want to look at, take responsibility for, actually, I guess be honest within my own being, right? Those are the things that reared up and I had no control over. It was like I had no way of understanding even what I was experiencing because I literally felt like I had everything ripped out from under me, lost everything, my house, my job, my kids were a mess. Everything in every fucking direction was up my ass. It was like I couldn't even think. And here I had always been kind of the one a little bit ahead of the ball, and rearing my two kids, working, going to school, whatever I had to do, just kind of handling it, moving on, whatever it was. And all of a sudden I was like, I just wanted to be in a hole. So what it took was, I guess, and they say, well, when you hit rock bottom, blah, blah, blah. This was not a rock bottom that you can see. This wasn't about the finances. I don't think this is about the outside Illuminati or the things that we are. I do believe we're still being attacked, don't get me wrong. I think that there are energy waves that are trying to influence what is naturally happening on the planet. But when it hit me, and it took me underground, it was like being reborn in a weird way. It had to, it's like I'm still being reborn. I'm still feeling the things that I wasn't capable of feeling or knowing, right? Because we've been so indoctrinated and we've been out of touch. And as women especially, we've been just like we're either, you know, the victim or the warrior or the this, or, you know, there's so many labels and so many identities that we try to attach ourselves to, and to just be who you are, like to just be yourself, but just be, like you said, like we don't have to do or accomplish 80 million things to uplift the vibration of the planet. We just have to be present.
Well, we have to go through ourselves. We have to do our healing. We have to seek. I was listening to, you know, a hypnotherapy session today, and she was just saying how the more we work to wake up ourselves individually, not even like waking other people up around us, but the individual we're doing ourselves to remember who we are, to wake up, to lift the veil, that is feeding into Earth shifting. That is feeding into Gaia's ascension. And that's what we're here to do. So, I mean, we don't have to do something.
There's something about the attachments to planet, because, and it's not just like, I mean, it's material things, but it's also this consciousness of how we survive, I think, because what happened, and basically, like you said, okay, well, change your ideas and change your thought on things. That wasn't working for me. I mean, I can remember like just almost like, you know, having a screaming fest with you about like, well, that's not goddamn work, you know, like it didn't matter. You know, I would do it for a few days, but because of the way I was living and because of what was happening, I couldn't maintain it. And it made me really start to think about like when the ball starts rolling, you know, like when you get the little snowball at the top of the hill and then it's rolling down and you collect more energy and you're connecting and you're collecting more of that negative vibration. It holds you into the 3D density. It holds you into the dynamic of the corruption of the government, of the story of the game, of the Matrix, right?
Yeah, but that keeps you distracted from going within. The only way through this is to go within, right? To see all of the things that are being shown to you, all of the triggers, all of your traumas, all of your dramas. Recognize them, give them consciousness, but don't stay there. Yeah, don't swim in it. See it, move on.
Like, you don't even have to, you know, I don't want to say this as, the get all, know all, but you don't even have to you don't even have to know what it is. This is where I'm coming, is I've spent my whole life, and especially in cellular schematics, finding the cause, realizing what it is, changing the direction, seeing the truth, you know, all these other things that I really believed were a way of clearing the body so that we could ascend. And again, what I'm finding out is that just another way of spinning us out. It's like, yes, there's the emotional part that sticks within us. There's these things that happen to us. But if we are always focused on, like you were saying, the negative within us, the lack, the this, the that, that's all we're creating. That's it. That's the whole cycle. So just stop it.
Literally, just stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
And people could say, oh, well, that's really easy to say. No, it's not easy to say. And I'm telling you, you know, even being, I'm still not where I want to be. And so.
But you're grounding yourself every day into the new earth, right? I told you it wasn't going to be over a day. You have to plant the seed for it to grow. So it's like I was in so much physical pain in the end of January and February.
Yes.
And you're right. I could go to every doctor in the world and they could give me some kind of crap diagnosis. But at the end of the day, I did my metaphysical work. And it wasn't that one day I felt better. It was over time. It was every day I felt a little better. And every day, like, I started putting in Abraham Hicks. Okay, I'm going to listen to something positive, right? And I'm going to, instead of getting up and reading Twitter in the morning, I'm going to get up and read some Law of One in the morning. And I'm going to enjoy hearing the birds sing. You know what I mean? Find something else to give your focus to that makes you feel good. If you can focus on how you're feeling when you're looking at something, and gauge, wow, I want to do more of this because I feel better when I'm doing this, as opposed to, wow, this makes me really not feel good. Stop doing what doesn't make you feel good and do double of what makes you feel good. And every day it'll get a little bit better. That's
where a lot of people get confused or have an issue, is because of the fact that they're stuck in jobs that they don't like, they're stuck in relationships, they're stuck in situations that they feel they can't control or can't get out of. Hold on just a second. We're going to take a break. Hey, Stephen, are you ready for that?
I've been ready.
Sorry, I didn't get you so just out of nowhere, but let's do that because it's right at the hour. And then when we come back, I want to get more of a perspective, first of all, on Anonymous' ideas of what the geometric side of things are. But then I also want to go into some of the ways that we can distract ourselves, get out of what is seen to be shoved down our throats in this 3D reality. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's Elemental Evolution here on People's Internet Radio. Again, before we take a little break, we were talking with Amanda Pinkerman and the owner and host of Anonymous Radio. Welcome back, both of you.
Hi, Sherry.
Okay. And also, again, thank you, Stephen, for producing this show and helping me keep everything together. So
You're very welcome.
About a lot of the different energy levels and dimensional realities, and kind of went in a little bit about what I was experiencing over this past year. And there were a lot of other people that I think were going through similar experiences. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on that we talked about, or that we just you kind of mentioned, was Q. And I've heard a lot from you, but I haven't done a lot of Fox. So could you kind of jump back a little bit, give a little explanation of what and who Q is, and then kind of give just a little breakdown of what it is that Q is giving out or saying?
Okay, so I just want to start with that I am a historian, ultimately. Like, I feel like that I'm like, yeah, I'm a healer and I do these other things, but there's something about me cataloging history, and I studied history at Michigan. I was actually political science and history. I studied political history, primarily of more recent, my gosh, they only go back 6,000 years, which is laughable. I've gone back, since Shambhala, I've gone back 172,000 years in history. So that's far more experience and exciting. But okay, so I like to frame it as that I study history, and that's just who I've always been. I've always followed history. And what Q is doing, Q is a high-level operative. I don't know who Q is. From the post I was reading today, it sounds like we're going to find out who Q is, and we're going to be surprised. Or at least that's what Q said. You'll be surprised when you find out who I am. So high-level person next to the president, very close to the president at some level, maybe Department of Defense. I have no idea. Could be standing with the president all the time because
Q is a bad. No way.
Amanda,
what?
Amanda, can I share something?
Oh.
I think this. No offense to you,
Go
Black
ahead.
Fox,
Yeah.
but
Okay, I want to hear from both you, Stephen and
Yeah, but
Anonymous.
Q's dropping history.
I think
Q's dropping information that's
Sure.
changing, that's uncovering history that has been lied to us.
so did Snowden. So did Julian Assange. So has this guy over here.
Yeah.
So has this woman over here.
Yeah, but there's a different phenomenon going on with Q because it's dropping on the Chan boards, and it's like the autists are finding it's all encoded. It's all numerical encoding.
They have to tell us. They have to tell us what they're doing. They've always had to tell us. They've told us from the beginning that they have.
Of course,
that they have to tell.
Yes, and it's direct communication on what they're doing.
But
you seem to think that it's still part of the light or the darkness doing more
I
dark.
I think it's part of the.
Do you think it's a light, energetic being?
I think it's part of the establishment. I think it's just they're naming
it's
it Q.
psyop.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with Stephen here because, I don't trust shit from the feds.
No, I know. Okay, whatever. Anyways, for me as a historian, that's why I was trying to frame it like I love studying history. It is changing the way history is being understood. It is unfolding and uncovering many historical things that have been hidden or manipulated in the offering of the information. So that's how I've enjoyed Q. It's blown my mind because it's taken me further down rabbit holes of understanding history or where we've been lied to with history. I mean, are either of you reading the Q posts at all?
No, I haven't been paying attention to them because I know a lot of what is going to come out. I know a lot of what has come out.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't even know. I'm gonna check them out tonight. It's just if you're saying it comes from the feds, it kind of makes me wonder about the rabbit holes.
It's the white hat.
About the rabbit holes, and if they're maybe kind of
my
just
God.
there to distract.
Maybe, but it's also uncovering a tremendous amount. So everything's posed as a question. So I just gave you a link to the board where a lot of it's been accumulated. But for me, like, I started reading it back in October, and I don't know why I stumbled on it. I literally was never on the boards and never on Reddit or any of that stuff before this, but I'd like to do the research. And so when the questions were posed, the research was being done and the research is being shared within these communities. And it's a linking together of everything. And there's these giant maps now that are showing you the network and the web on the planet and who's involved and at what level. And to me, it's just so fascinating to see the intricacies of it. And this is what this information is providing for the people to create these gigantic charts that are profound. They're blowing my mind.
You know, Amanda, you and Sherry mentioned earlier about not being the right time to hear certain information. I've
100%.
Yeah. I've told Sherry many times, and I've told everybody on the radio many times. I've heard all of this stuff 40 years ago when I was a kid. I heard all about the Illuminati. I heard all about the secret societies. I heard all about the plans. Yada, yada, yada. It just didn't resonate with me. I wasn't into it. I was into sports. I was into girls. I was into this. I was into that. I just didn't care. It didn't resonate at the time, and it does now.
Right. Exactly. That is everything right there, Stephen.
Yeah, dog. I've been doing this since I was 16.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I look back, my entire life led to where I am. When I think about what I studied in college, I mean, who would I specifically studied Nazi Germany, and I did an entire show with Sherry recently about Nazi Germany and about James Forrestal, the Secretary of Defense at the time, and John F. Kennedy being in Nazi Germany at the end of World War II with James Forrestal and seeing all the technology and the information and how the Nazis were enfolded right into our CIA through Operation Overcast, which is a sub-operation of Operation Paperclip. And so we literally, nothing's changed. It's still the Nazis running, or that philosophy, which was just a setup from the Illuminati and the darkness itself. So all of it is, it's like the agenda's never changed. World War II might have ended, but the agenda has marched on, and that's where we are. And it's being exposed. And I hope with the exposure of it, what it's doing is it's going to drop these gigantic pedophile rings and the satanic practices and the adrenochrome and all the things that turn my stomach that are reality of this planet. That darkness needs to be brought to the top. And so if the Q posts are getting people to think and expand and see the connections, it's just bringing everything to the top. I
don't doubt that the government wants us to know the truth. I think there's going to come a time. I think disclosure could be happening too, like UFOs and shit.
Yeah, 100%.
CNN is never going to tell the normal, everyday 9-to-5ers. They're never going to tell the truth to the masses. They're going to tell the truth to people like us who can handle it through the internet.
I think disclosure is this energetic wave coming from the sun. It's going to be a translucent rainbow wave. My friend said, and we just talked about this, right? But my friend said her son said he experienced, in a dream, he had a lucid dream where he looks up, he sees this in the sky, he experiences this energy wave, and then when he turns around and looks at the people next to him, they don't look anything like what he thought they did, and they're aliens standing next to him. So there's going to be this veil that's going to drop. It's going to be instantaneous, and that's when we're going to have this telepathic connection. And this is what I'm telling you, they're not going to be able to hide all the lies. Yep. The government, it doesn't matter what they're telling us or what they're not telling us. It's all going to go away because you won't be able to hide it.
They can't hide the lies from me, but I think Sherry wanted to say something. Go ahead, Sherry. It's your show.
Oh, sorry, Sherry.
I love this type of conversation. I think the interesting thing about it is that, and then you guys totally touched on this, is that it doesn't matter where it comes from to me. I don't care if it's from the bad guys or if it's an agenda. If it gets people thinking, it's not about
it's knowledge.
Following it. Right. It's not about looking at the site and going through different things. I mean, they're talking about this is not about religious or party affiliation. Evil is everywhere. There are no drawn lines, no boundaries. They're going in. Okay, right there, that just gets your mind thinking about, okay, well, what does that mean? Or,
right.
Whatever it is.
It's encoded trigger words that are waking people up. Yeah. And when you draw the connections, you create the lines, and then it goes out into the grid of consciousness. So then we go towards that 100th monkey effect ever more, right? Where society, that's when I think the event occurs when we hit a tipping point collectively.
I think you're right, but I don't know that. Well, I used to think that, and now I'm questioning as to whether or not it's not completely individual, but.
Well, it is. And it is. I think it happens in waves. Like the epiphanies I'm having, I got switched around this morning. I got a little negative and I could feel it, and I got a little divisive because I dipped back into the politics of our reality. And I'm like, oof, I got to pull out of that. Because when you're reading my thoughts, I don't want that being what I'm transmitting. And just that constant now awareness. I mean, I think we're going there as a species, all of us.
Talking about in the chat about the pedophiles and all these things, and you kind of touched in on that, of saying, that's going to be exposed. Well, I think people are going to be shocked, first of all, at how much exposure, but then also, you and I have talked about two different things at different times as to why the perversion is so, it seems almost like a disease on this planet. And I believe that there are, these energy waves that are being manipulated, not the natural waves. I think that those have something to do with it, but I also think that there are certain structures, like the lack of, what was it? I can't remember now all of a sudden. Magnesium, I think. Or, no, it was something else. But it causes basically the human brain to have sexual perversion, and those ingredients, those minerals, are taken out of the diet. Those type of things.
Oh, 100%. And the genetically modified foods are horrible, but they're also doing all the programming with the subliminal messages that are coming through, so that but we can transcend all of that. Honestly, Sherry, I think we can transcend it with our thoughts. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Try to fix your food, try to eat a little better, but turn off the chatter, right? And center yourself and put your emotions towards something that feels good. What's that, Anonymous?
Mindfulness.
Yes. And we can overcome the thing the hypnosis session I was listening to today, she said, we can opt out of the control system. Your free will allows you to opt out, but they are using, just like Stephen said, they always have to tell us what they're doing. Correct. They're always telling us what they're doing. Everything's in plain sight because they're using our free will against us. But once you become aware of this, opt out. Burn all your contracts. I settle all my contracts, null and void. I am done with all karmic issues, null and void, right? Just start cutting through everything. Take yourself above the control system, above the matrix, and start thinking and operating at a different level on the new earth, that new earth that I want you to ground into.
Sorry, I have my mute on. It's made a big difference for me in perception as far as not getting stuck in what I'm living here. That is because that was always a question. You've got starving children and you've got this and you've got that. Well, how do they, change their vibration? How do they look at it differently? It's almost like having a religion. It gives you a hope or a direction, a distraction, a focus of that new higher vibration. But I still think it's within us. I think we are in creation. And like you said, coming here to help that evolution of Gaia, that expansion, that creation, it has to do with all of us.
Yeah, and the opportunity to come here and go through this experience, have this catalyst. This is an exceptional planet to be on. It's an exceptional experience to have. There are many souls who haven't been able to incarnate, but are here supporting. So I think that the more we can step into the joy and the gratefulness that we got to come here and be here during this shift, this gives our soul something that's priceless. It's helping Gaia transform. It's helping humanity, evolve.
Well, and that is a very interesting perception when you start talking about the evolution of an entire race and being
species, not a race, a species, or the human race.
Okay, well, go into that a little bit more, because define that maybe.
Well,
species, race.
I think there's only one. I only believe in one, and I believe that we are all in avatar form here. I think our consciousness is being being projected into these bodies, the matrix or whatever. But your physical form isn't your soul. Our souls all exist at a higher consciousness, and we're just one. We're just light bodies. We don't carry the skin and the hair, and like, who cares about all of that? That is pointless on the matter. We're all souls having human experiences at the leading edge of creation. So yeah, to me, that's just another way to distort us from unifying, from connecting, so it's the whole species moving forward, the evolvement of the human species. I mean, we're a beautiful species. We really are. When we come together, we collaborate in beautiful ways. We make amazing music. We make god-awful good food. Oh, I love food, right? Can you not go out and have amazing food? We have gorgeous sunsets. We have vistas and views. Like, that's where we need, listen, you can vibrate in the frequency of chaos and experience the destruction of what's going to come, or you can vibrate at a higher vibrational frequency and experience all the goodness that's going to flow. And, Sherry, I think we've talked about this. The earth changes that will take place, there'll be more earth changes in toxic areas where people's consciousness is toxic. And so the more you're at a higher frequency, you're going to experience peace, like bliss, happiness. But those who are in the lower frequencies are going to have a rough ride. So you got to clear your frequency. You got to be mindful.
I guess what's interesting is watching where I've been and how I feel today, and kind of how I'm coming out of things, and even making decisions maybe in those spaces of survival. It was feeling almost like I wasn't capable of going within because it was somehow not in reach. It wasn't about not wanting to see it or not looking at it. I felt like I've looked at it 1,000 times. It was more like it just had a life or existence of its own. And somehow getting and pushing through it and deciding that, okay, so if I can't figure out how to do it on the inside of myself right now, I'm going to do it from the outside, which doesn't make a lot of sense since we're always talking about going in. But it was going back to school, going into and making sure that I have the political science that I need to go into lobbying and start making changes from within the system there. Looking at how I'm eating, looking at how I'm doing things, looking at the structure of the inner of my house, and everything on the inside, on the outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's like putting all the pieces in place to give that calm and peace back into your life. So you became active and you engaged and you went out and you applied and you're in school and you're making those changes, right? So that it feels better. So you're ever moving closer to that which feels better. Is that how you would say what you're doing?
It was almost like there was no feeling.
So you were kind of in a numbed state doing it, but now you need to feel it. Like, you need to feel every moment and everything you're doing. And how do you feel?
And that's what's happening now. And today I really, so I had to take a science class. I had to have an additional science, or I had to have actually 3 additional science classes. But so one being the political, and then I chose climate control. Jesus freaking Christ.
But why would you hit yourself in the head?
I mean, really, 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 why would I? Exactly. Well, it's too late to stop hitting myself now. As I'm reading this stuff, so then today, I take my midterm, because it's already that time. And I swear, Amanda, I couldn't regurgitate, which a lot of things I am capable of. I can just memorize it for what it is and then regurgitate it. But it was so much bullshit, I couldn't even regurgitate it.
It's like when I try to show my children things, I show them shows on Gaia, and my daughter will be like, I can't watch that, Mom, because when I take my midterm for my history class, I I will want to write that down, and I'll fail for writing that. It's a tough system. Yeah.
That's kind of what happened to me today.
It's programming.
It is, and I really got a taste of it, and I got to see where I thought I was walking the line, and she was like, F. So it's not even about walking the line. It's like you either regurgitate what they're telling you, the indoctrination, or you're out. And I guess what I'm looking at is, am I strong enough? Am I there enough to where I can get through this process and still maintain my integrity, my morals, my idea of what I'm even going into this program for?
Yeah, it feels like a coming to Jesus kind of moment, because you're going to have to compromise your authentic self and regurgitate the garbage in order to get the passing grade, in order to get the position that you want. So can you stay grounded in a place where you don't compromise your soul?
Well, and not even, I mean, it's almost like, one of the things about lobbying and about bill writing, and even when I was going through all of the stuff with the marijuana issues in Colorado, it's always a compromise. It's always, okay, well, we'll give you this, but in return, you agree to this, this, and this. Sometimes it's, in my opinion, it's not worth it. It's to the point of where we've created this check and balance is completely out of balance. So I am still going to pursue what I'm doing because I'm invested, and that's, I'm insane, and that's what I do. I pretty much failed my midterm, so I will be trying to regurgitate better for my final. Good God. Well, so, there's a lot of things, because, and of course, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about what I wrote and everything because I don't want to embarrass myself, but,
Anonymous is in school. How's he feeling? Is he having a similar experience?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes.
I haven't started yet, but, I haven't started yet.
Okay. Well, let us know when you do, if you're having some similar, conflicts within.
I always have conflicts within. It's just kind of who I am. I worry about people who are sure of themselves.
Well, this is how funny things are, is I guess there's certain things that I do feel sure about. When I get certain visions or I have certain things, it's not because I feel like it's not really from me. But that's another thing. In the last year, I really got a reality check of, I don't know crap about what's going on. Every time I think I have a clue, I get spun in a totally different direction and get a totally different reality of what the truth is. And that's why talking with Amanda has been so important for me. And a lot of what she kind of didn't get to go into a lot, but the history is so important because that is our only outline. We can listen to a million different opinions, and we can follow all these different rabbit holes, and we can try and figure out the lies. But history in itself is going to tell the story. It just is.
History is told by the winners.
It has been. So this is interesting. So you know that satellite, what's it, Oumuamua or whatever, the asteroid that was named by NASA out in the galaxy there? Corey Goode did a thing on where they bordered it, and it basically, the ancient builder race is Ra, who wrote Law of One. And in Law of One, Ra talks about evolving from the third density reality that we're in. They evolved from that 2.6 billion years ago. So apparently that asteroid, it's not an asteroid, it's a ship, and it starts with an O. It's like it has a Hawaiian name, and the name actually means messenger. But apparently they boarded it, and it was the first time that all of these ancient writings were found, and that every other time we've come upon these ancient writings, they've been scratched out by other races that have come since then, and those that are manipulating our society. And so it was like finding this ancient history that was untouched. And I think that that's something that is, I pray that that's all going to unfold so that we can really hear the history of our solar system, hear the history of our galaxy. And that's what disclosure is. Disclosure is everything. It's like there's no more veil. We're going to know everything.
How do you think people are going to react to that?
Well, there's going to be all kinds of different levels. I mean, there's going to be people who are blissed out, and there's people who are going to be like they're going to lose their mind.
I mean, do you think some people won't even see it?
I don't think there'll be a choice of whether you'll see it or not see it. I think the only way you don't see it is if you don't live through it.
And the reason I say that is because it's just like, and I've said this in so many shows, and it's been a while since I brought it up, but, you know, it's like those Indians, supposedly, you know, I use this as a metaphor, take it that way, everybody, is, you know, when the Indians are watching and seeing Columbus and all of the ships coming in, they literally cannot see them because they have no reality of the existence of them. And until it comes into their reality, they cannot see him. They cannot see what's happening.
Right.
I mean, do you think that's plausible? Do you think that is feasible to say maybe is what is some of what is happening now, or could that continue? You know, I'm kind of digging here, like kind of questioning myself. What do you think about it?
Well, I think that there's multiple things that are going to unfold, and that are unfolding with these energetic waves that are coming from the sun, and they're coming directly also, like our sun is directly affected by the galactic center. And so we're moving that way planetary wise now for the next 13,000 years. Our entire solar system moves towards the galactic center. So we're ever bringing on more light. And I think that like awakening is like everything, like realizing that there are ships all around us all the time that we don't see, that there are aliens standing amongst us, that there are aliens living, or there's our future selves living within the center of the earth. I think it's in many levels. I have no idea. Sherry, it's going to be more than I could ever even imagine, or any of us.
I think that is true. Although I still question, I guess I still have my doubts because I've been through so many different time periods of where I felt or thought or was told that there would be, you know, a massive amount of disclosure. Or, I mean, I can remember, and this was 1988 when Ramtha was coming through and telling everybody, you know, basically the Palladian readings, the Palladian writings, and telling everybody to become self-sufficient and the planet's going to end, you know, all of the things.
No, the planet isn't going to end. I don't think the planet's going to end.
No, I agree. And so, I guess, Anonymous, you've been doing different shows on a lot of different aspects of what's happening directly on the planet, haven't you? Like with the shootings and different things that we're seeing happening. Is that true?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've done some shows on Fukushima. We've done some shows on Flint. But as far as aliens go, I think when it comes to the general acceptance of the concept of an invasion, people have it well in their minds, much like they do with the subject of AI. When it comes through Hollywood, through movies like Terminator and Alien and The Day the Earth Stood Still. So I don't think it'll be something that'll be difficult to accept. Also, future selves. Yeah, if time travel is ever to be invented or could ever be invented, much like Murphy's Law, it is inevitable that we would see it in our present because the people of the future would travel back to the past. That's just my opinion.
So, you know, I have a lot of opinions about time travel. I definitely believe in it, and I definitely think that it's happening. I think that we're all experiencing it, but we don't understand it, and we don't know about it. I think it's interesting that you say that our future selves would come back.
Well, yeah, it's like if it can happen, it will happen. Therefore, it has happened already. The concept of time travel.
I believe that. Do you think Antarctica has anything to do with it?
Have you guys heard of the Anshar?
The what? Say that again.
The Anshar. So the Anshar live within caverns within the earth. And this is from Corey Goode. A lot of this is from Corey Goode, but there are future selves here to keep the timeline in check because things started changing in the future that were being affected by our timeline. I think we have no concept of like how fluid the timeline is. And, and then we have all these Mandela things. And then once you have time travel and people are changing things, the timeline's ever changing. So my understanding is that our future selves are here to maintain and help navigate the timeline to the best temporal timeline for us to experience.
So you think that you don't think that it's the opposite?
Explain your perception of the opposite.
Well, I'm just saying, it seems like this reality has really dove in all the way down into the darkest, deepest, ugliest. In my,
it looks like the Matrix. Like when you're unplugged, it's that dark and that ugly. That is here.
Okay,
yes.
And so that's what I'm, the questioning again is, so it's almost like now recreating something different, right? So being unplugged, and instead of having the battle like you saw in the movie, The Matrix, it's actually just creating a new Earth without all that shit, right?
Well, we're here during the time of the harvest, and that's it's an ascension period that happens at the end of the great year. The great year is that 25,920 year time. So we're here to ascend. I mean, the earth is, I don't know how else to say it.
Give your definition of ascension.
Full realization and awareness of everything at once, like all truths being known instantaneously throughout.
So not just, okay, yeah, I get what's going on here. You're talking about like being connected to what I consider, the supreme or the universal source,
Yeah, so we will ascend to fourth density where we have awareness, and our lessons will be different but some will ascend, some will not, and they will reincarnate on another third density planet if that's where they need to stay, if they need to repeat the cycle. And there are those who will ascend to fourth density positive and fourth density negative. So I think there will be a destructive experience for some people who are on the negative path. I think there's multiple timelines that are going to split. There's going to be multiple experiences. Just like when you're saying that it's an individual experience, I think the individual experience is the timeline that you will then be on. So some people will experience destruction. Other people will experience bliss.
Which does make sense when you break it down into what we are in creation. Because it's not just about, okay, well, it's not just your thoughts, I don't think. I mean, it is your thoughts, but it's also, every part of your body is in movement. Every aspect of our thoughts, and they affect our organs, they affect our blood, they affect all of these different aspects inside the body. I think that that's also a reflection of what we're experiencing in this reality. Just like you were saying with your, you were in a ton of pain, and when you process through the emotional side of it, or it's not necessarily just emotional. It's more like an astral, or I don't know how you would describe that necessarily.
It's resistance. It's resistance to whatever I'm supposed to be learning or processing, right? I think we experience physical pain when we're in resistance to learning the lesson or to hearing the message. We're creating that distortion of energy. We're stopping the chi flow in our body because we're in resistance. So as soon as we can sit and meditate and focus on whatever the message is in that aspect of your body, you can sit and communicate with your body, ask your organ what's going on. It's going to tell you. And then you need to let it go.
I think that's the hardest thing.
I know. It is.
It is, because when you're in it, it's we've been taught to blame, first of all, but secondly...
Well, when you're in pain, it's awful.
I talk to my organ all the time.
Yeah, pain is, it keeps you preoccupied. But, like my back pain keeps coming, but it's the paradigm. It's my belief system with how I think our reality should be. And that's obviously being torn down, and it's crumbling ever so every day, every more. And that sits in my back, that belief system, that like structure of what I think reality should be, or what I thought it was, or what I grew up thinking or being taught it was, isn't so. And so there it is. It's in my back. So the more I can process and let go of how I think the world should be, and more experience and be in the now, be mindful, be in the moment, and just accept everything I'm experiencing, as opposed to trying to frame it in my mind of a belief. Let go of all your beliefs. Let it go.
Well, that's kind of the thing, is that it's like we all are just at this level of, it seems like to me, what you said in the beginning of making these choices, but making them from a different point of view, I guess, or seeing them from a different perception. And
it's perspective.
Between
shadow and light. Think about how the sun moves across the sky and the different shadows cast during the day. Every one of those is a different perspective. That's your thoughts. That's your mind.
Exactly. And I think it is hard. This planet, whether it's intentional, whether we signed up, whether it's whatever.
You're here. Get over it.
And it's this year, like I said, this last year was probably the hardest I've experienced on this planet. And I feel like getting through that, and all that being said, it's also, again, evolution and our forced growth is upon us. And we don't seem, as the human race, to evolve without the catalyst.
In third density reality, that is we are here with the catalyst, and the catalyst is evil. It's the choice between good and evil. We can get down, it gets in the tarot cards. It's the choice. You're the fool making the choice with all the different archetypes of good and evil.
And the choices, and I think that this is the interesting dynamic, is that there are all these different choices, but in reality, there's really just that one choice within yourself that, again, you touched in on earlier about, does it feel good?
Right.
I mean,
and if you're following your emotional guidance, right, Sherry, then you're going to feel good. You're going to experience good. It's going to be better.
Right. And I think that that's part of, again, everything that's collectively happening. Now, I do feel like that I'm starting to see now the vibrational waves that were hitting me or seem to be targeting me are hitting other people. And so I feel like, the other people are starting to experience very similar dynamics, but their own. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's because you're a forerunner. That's why I'm like, I think you and I get hit with things maybe before the general public does.
Well, it's not really that fun.
No, it's not fun. But maybe we can soften it for those who will come next. It's like being a trailblazer.
Well, I think it does somehow, at least, I don't know if it softens it, but it at least gives an understanding. At least we can talk about it.
Right.
While I was in it, that was for sure not going to happen. And I did talk about what it felt like and how I was experiencing. And it did feel like I was being attacked in every single direction, to be honest. And whether that was inside, outside, whatever it was still the catalyst that I needed to push me into a place of where I was going to make different choices.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now. And that's, being able to kind of accept on a deeper level where I'm at and not be, beating the shit out of myself or hating society or.
You have to love yourself enough, Jerry, to care how you feel.
That's huge. People don't, to really hear that, yes, everybody goes,
no, but you have to live that.
That's not as easy as people think. That's part of the problem on this earth, I feel like. Is that we don't love ourselves. We haven't put ourselves in a position of loving our children, loving ourselves, loving our planet, loving the animals around us, loving everything.
It's because we're stuck in the paradigm of the control matrix, of the control system, of you've got to have a job, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to make the money. But if you think about how you feel when you get home or you're on the weekend and you have your time off and you enjoy what you're doing and you're feeling good, that's, those, pay attention to how that feels and create more of that in your life. So create the job that you're doing makes you feel that way, right? Like care enough about yourself, love yourself enough to do things that make you feel good. And maybe it takes you time to shift and find those things in your life. But when you start to give your awareness to how you're feeling when you're in the moment And are you expressing with anger or are you expressing with love? Gosh, you're going to feel better.
Oh, man, but all the best comedians hate themselves.
I have that.
But they're making you laugh. Like, I love to play the game Things because I do nothing but laugh. And so do things on purpose that make you laugh.
Well, I have to say that that's part of what inspired, yesterday I got a message from another host telling me that there was another host, that was talking shit about me and blah, blah, blah.
Sorry.
I got so upset. And it wasn't because, she's talking shit about me. It was because of the subjects and because of, all these different things. It was like, it just totally triggered me into the story. And the more that I got into it, the more riled up that I got, and the more I was involving other people, and it really could have gotten, I wanted to really be nasty on the show tonight, to be honest with you. But
you subconsciously you did not, because you brought me on.
Right. And I kind of knew that this would distract me enough and be able to talk about things that that weren't going to take me in that direction, I guess.
Hey, Sherry.
Yes.
Probably should wrap up here.
Yes. And there was other things. There was definitely more topics that I wanted to talk about. One being, the exposure of a lot of the pedophilia that's happening, and how and what that means on a cellular level, and how that is, showing a lot of the exposure, like what you were talking about. But again, we'll have more time later. So thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you, Anonymous Radio, for everything that you do. And if you guys want to both just quickly, Amanda, you first, give out where people can find you and watch your YouTube videos.
Pinklight999 on YouTube, and AmandaPinkerman.com is my website. And I'm Pinklight999 on Facebook and on Twitter.
Ta-da. And then Anonymous Radio. Go ahead.
You can find us on pretty much anywhere, as long as you look up Anonymous Radio Redux, or you can check out our website, anonymousradioredux.wordpress.com. We're on Spreaker, and we're going to be a 24-hour live radio station within the coming few weeks, hopefully.
Yes, so things are moving forward, and it's going to be an exciting year. Thank you both for coming on. Thank you again, Stephen, for producing this and putting everything.
My nigga.
What was that?
You're welcome.
Oh, good.
I said my nigga.
I heard him. I got it.
Oh, good. Okay. And again, thank you, People's Internet Radio. And for all you listeners, if you like what we're doing, please hit that donate button so that we can continue doing it with a little more comfort. Thank you all. Good night.